God. Something nearby is leeching all the external dimensions.
Aliens.
Possibly. Oh, who am I kidding? Probably. Whatever they are, they're experimenting. They're testing. They are dissecting. Trying to understand us. Trying to understand 3 dimensions. Life support failing.
Hi everyone, Titus going 123 here, and today I'm going to be reviewing Flatline, the ninth episode of Series 8. And it's once again written by Jamie Matheson, who wrote last week's episode, Mummy on the Orient Express. And if you haven't had a chance to see that review, I'll just tell you straight away that I absolutely loved that story. It was incredible. So, has he held up a second time? Well, the short answer is yes, basically. It's not as good as Flatline. It's not as good as Mummy on the Orient Express. This is Flatline. It's not as good as that. It is a bit lower. It does have some flaws, and I'll get into them. But nevertheless, you know, it is a great episode. My second favourite of Series 8. I'm kind of giving the game away too soon here, but, you know, I'm just going to say it how it is, to be honest. It is my second favourite episode of Series 8. Behind Mummy on the Orient Express, which is in first, and one behind this would have to be Robot of Sherwood, which, you know, was an interesting comedic episode. Some people liked it, some people didn't. I personally quite liked it. So yeah, anyway, back to Flatline. It's quite a an interesting story, and it's similar to Iterations of I. I'll say that, but I won't say any more about it, because that would be a spoiler for Iterations of I. But it's got some similar ideas to that. Of course, they're not related. It's not kind of like one's pulling from the other, because they were probably written in about the same time and whatnot. Because by the time that that one was released, this one would have been finished recording just about. But anyway, Flatline itself is a interesting story, definitely for that. I like the idea of kind of like these creatures from another dimension leaking into us, and that 2D dimension as well. That's a very unique idea, I feel, and something that I'm surprised hasn't been thought of already for Doctor Who, and kind of like the idea that it's leeching all the external dimensions and having the TARDIS shrunk down so that the Doctor and Clara are separated once more. It's not as good as it was in Mummy on the Orient Express. It's much more physically separated, whereas here they can still talk to each other. It just keeps the Doctor out of the action for a bit longer and whatnot, but nevertheless, here it works fairly well, and it's an interesting concept. And having the TARDIS shrunk down, you know, it's nothing new, but the way it's done in this is just the exterior being shrunk down. That's an interesting idea. And then you've got that great scene where the Doctor kind of like pokes his hand out, Adam's Family style, and just moves to TARDIS. And it's such a tense scene, but it's so comedic as well. But the music, it's not comical, it's serious music, and it just seems to work very well, and it makes it a real classic scene. I think that's going to be seen, if there's going to be any scene that's remembered in this story, it'll be that one. Now, the monsters, who are apparently called the Boneless, are interesting. I like how they kind of like got this evolutionary stage as it goes along. You know, they start off as these 2D things, and that's creepy enough. And the scene which is quite odd is kind of like that, the scene with the nervous system in the background on the wall. That's extremely creepy. I didn't notice that until they said it. I saw it on the wall, and I was just like, well, that's an odd design choice. It looked like a tree or roots thing or something odd. And then they said that's the person's nervous system, and then I thought, oh, that's quite dark actually, and I like that scene. That was quite a scary scene, I think. That not necessarily scary, kind of like shock, kind of like horror scary, but more just the general concept of it was quite gruesome. So, and it kind of like, I'm happy that it didn't kind of like say that they were just being pulled in to this other dimension and whatnot. I'm happy that they didn't go down the line of they all live. They are killed by this process. And then there's the whole thing a bit later where it's kind of like, I was a bit worried that it was going to go down the route of they don't know what they're doing, they're friendly and whatnot. And I was a bit worried they were going to go down that route, but fortunately they didn't. They kept them hostile and kind of like gloating that they killed people and whatnot. And that made them quite creepy. But I'm happy they didn't have I think it would have been better if they were fleshed out and had a bit more of motive, but in the time span I can understand why. If it had maybe been an hour long, I would definitely have spent 10 minutes of that kind of establishing what they want. But for what they were, you know, they were kind of like a Monster of the Week villain, I guess. But nevertheless, for that, they are the most memorable Monster of the Week we've had in quite a while. Although I guess you could say the Mummy was a more memorable Monster of the Week. You know, I think Jamie Matheson is good with creating these memorable villains, definitely for sure. But this is one of the most memorable. Behind the Mummy, probably the most memorable in recent history in terms of Doctor Who. So that's good. And then when they evolve further, and then you kind of like got the pictures moving, kind of like that stuff creeping across the floor. And you've got the couch scene and whatnot, where they literally drag and eat it in the wall. That is quite terrifying. That's some good CGI right there. And then you kind of like got them as 3D. Then when you have them as kind of like these moving 3D things, they almost look 2D as shots, but they're not. They really are moving, and they're quite creepily moving as well. And apparently this was inspired by 3D printing errors. I don't know what I'm on about. Yeah, errors in 3D printing. And I think, you know, now that I've heard that, I can like see that going on there. But it's very creepy nonetheless. They are quite scary monsters, and I can imagine as a young child being quite terrified of that. The shooting power thing out of their hands, I wasn't entirely convinced by. But other than that, they are extremely creepy monsters. And then there's that whole kind of like thing where that man dies by being kind of like pulled into the wall, and then for a second there it looks normal, but then the camera angle shifts slightly and you can see that he's actually in the wall. It's like one of those optical illusions in a way. It's very, very well done. So what didn't I like about this episode so much? Well, it was mainly the conclusion. And what I mean by that is that you kind of like the way it's concluded. You know, it feels too much like Series 7 and Series 6 with the 11th Doctor. You know, he just comes out of the TARDIS waving the sonic screwdriver as if it's magic wand, and then all the monsters are gone. Problem solved. And well, it was explained what he was doing, or well, not explained how or what he was doing. It just kind of like said, if you can get me back there with enough power, I've got a way to defeat him. So you know, it's like that, but I'm still not overly fond of it. No, that still left me a bit cold, I think, that bit. But then we've got the whole underground scenes, and they were quite creepy. They reminded me a bit of the Web of Fear, I guess, but you know, you didn't have all the web stuff. But nevertheless, they were quite creepy in that regard. It's got that same kind of aesthetic sense to it, I guess. But those underground scenes were quite effective, in my opinion. And you know, then you've got Clara being the Doctor, and you've got Rigsy, I think, yeah, Rigsy or Rigsby. Well, I think it's Rigsy actually, kind of like being her companion. So I guess this is the closest those people who have been crying out for a female Doctor are going to get to one for quite a while. But hopefully Capaldi's here to stay for quite a while. But anyway, Clara, you know, I like how she's kind of like this is kind of like showing how much she's learned from the Doctor and whatnot. She's kind of like taking that on board. And then you got that whole thing at the end where it's kind of like got this whole thing about the Doctor being a good man going on throughout this series, where he goes, "You were a magnificent Doctor, good had nothing to do with it," and that was quite effective. And then it kind of like cut into that Missy scene, which was a bit out of nowhere. I like the music that cut into it though, that was quite good and creepy. And here's something that you may not have noticed. There's windows in the background with kind of like a large circle and then a small circle next to it, like a teardrop. And well, that of course is the eyepiece of a certain villain, or monster more accurately. I won't say anything more on that, just in case there are those of you who didn't notice that or anything. Most of you probably have made a connection by now. In fact, I'm just going to come out and say it anyway. Cybermen, of course, they are going to be in the finale. It's hard to avoid that now. But anyway, enough about the finale. Let's focus on this episode once again. So then you kind of like got that end scene with what's it called? The characters. I forgot his Al. That was it. I think. Was it Al? I've forgotten the character's name. The older man. But yeah, he was quite a unlikable character, but not in a bad way. He was kind of like made to be unliked. And then that leads to that magnificent line from Capaldi where he says, maybe not all the right people made it out, or something like that. And that was terrific. That was very dark. And that really did work well, I feel. So I think that's basically all I've got to say about this episode. 9 out of 10, I guess, because it does have that flaw, like the ending just didn't sit well with me. But other than that, it is a very good episode, my second favourite of the series. So yeah, thanks for watching everyone, and I'll see you all next time with the review of The Light at the End. That's the 50th anniversary Doctor Who audio drama by Big Finish. So thanks for watching this review of Flatline, and I'll see you all next time. Bye everyone.